Macca's Guides.
Hey everyone, Macca here and welcome to another video. Like many of you, I have been playing a little bit of the Halo Infinite tech test this weekend, putting my skills up to the test against some bots, looking through the new maps, new features, new weapons, and there's a lot of things I learned, small little details that can be easily overlooked, and I wanted to share them in a quick tips and tricks or things you may not have noticed type of video. The first thing I wanted to mention was the D-pad, and if you looked at the control scheme, you may already know this, but there are a couple of new commands you can do on the D-pad. First up, you can press up on the D-pad to ping a location, and the ping will change based on the context of what you're pinging. It'll just be white for an area or red if you're pinging an enemy, and it'll show the location of the ping by name, which corresponds to the location's name next to your radar in the bottom left corner. Additionally, you can also press right on the D-pad in order to quickly drop the weapon you are currently holding. This will be a lifesaver when playing with a teammate and trying to quickly swap weapons. Additionally, if you press down on the D-pad, it should do an AI scan, which basically just scans the map, even through the walls, and shows you what's available and where it is. It'll show you available weapon lockers, power weapons, and stuff like that. So if you are struggling with a weapon and you are looking for something new, maybe you're looking for where your teammates keep getting their battle rifles from, you're going to want to do an AI scan by pressing down on the D-pad to see where everything is. Moving on from the D-pad, I want to talk about the weapon lockers. There's a lot of really cool things going on here. First of all, you'll see weapon lockers scattered all over the map. You can ping them with the AI scan, which I mentioned earlier. But as you take a weapon, you may notice that stuff happens to the weapon locker. And at the very top, there should be a blue line that starts moving across. And this is a timer. So if you want a weapon from a weapon locker and you see that the blue line is approaching the end, it means that it's about to spawn a new version. However, sometimes when you pick up certain weapons, the weapon locker will turn red, and this means that this is kind of like a semi-power weapon, and therefore only one of these can be deployed on the map at a time. And this will stay red until the weapon that it is fully depleted or despawned off the map. So, for example, the Needler and the shotgun, a new one will not spawn until all of the bullets are used, or it has just laid on the ground long enough to despawn. Only then will a new timer start and a new weapon spawn. Also, weapon lockers have categories. This is probably obvious, but there are certain weapon lockers that will spawn things like the battle rifle or the commando, which are very kind of medium to long range weapons. Other ones will spawn kind of shorter range weapons, and you'll notice that not every weapon locker is the same every time, but generally they serve the same purpose every time in terms of the types of weapons they produce. Also, you may have noticed that power weapons are not in lockers, and you may think that was a weird decision, but I think it's so that you can actually use the plasma grenades or your grappling hook, or your grapple shot rather, in order to grab these weapons from their spawn. This is a strategy that has existed all the way from Halo 1 and recently came back in Halo 5, but you can grapple shot weapons over to you or use plasma grenades to launch them across the map. Staying on the topic of weapons, you'll notice that as you pick up a weapon, there are different damage types. So the regular weapons are kinetic weapons. There's also plasma weapons. I think there are hard light weapons, and there may even be more available types in the future. We've seen like electricity grenades in trailers. We've seen like anti-vehicle weapons in the trailers, so anything is possible. But different damage types deal damage differently. That should be somewhat obvious. For example, the kinetic weapons do a good amount of damage to shields and health, whereas plasma weapons have always generally done more damage to shields, and I believe hardlight can in a way penetrate through the shields. You're going to want to focus on these damage types and see how they affect the gameplay and use them accordingly to what they can do. Another really cool thing that I don't think a lot of people know yet, because I literally haven't seen one single person do it, is that you can actually shoot the bottom of the drop shield from the front to just completely destroy it right away. Obviously, you can shoot through the back, but you can't shoot through the front. But you can just shoot the little part at the bottom and destroy it completely in order to kill those bots or in the future enemies more quickly. Another thing that can give you a quick advantage on the battlefield is the overshield, which no longer works like the previous overshields in many of the Halo games. Now this is an equipment that goes into your equipment slot and you carry it around in your back pocket. As soon as you get shot, you can actually activate the overshield, and as long as the animation completes before you are completely killed, you will equip a full overshield. This is going to be a really useful trick when in battle. I don't know how I personally feel about this, but it is there right now, and it may be like this when the game finally launches. Next up, I want to talk a little bit about things you can find in the menu. From the main menu, there is a battle pass, and you have been hooked up with enough credits to use it and test it a little bit, so feel free to buy it and try to unlock some armor coatings or some visor colors. I don't think any of this stuff is going to carry over to the full game, but it's cool to have it nonetheless and stand out when you customize your character. Another thing that is very cool and useful that I think might stay to the final game is the ability to swap your weekly challenges. If you go to the challenge menu, you'll notice that some of them are not possible. Some of them are game type locked to game types that aren't even available in the tech test, and you can actually swap them for new challenges. There is a certain amount of swaps you can do before you run out. As you complete these weekly challenges, you can unlock rewards. For example, in the tech test, you can get the stone green armor coating. Make sure you're swapping challenges that are not to your playstyle or not to the game types you are playing. This will allow you to make way more progress, way more quickly as you play. And it's something that goes on in the background, so you don't even have to focus on it as long as you're swapping stuff out. Another thing I highly recommend you look through are the settings. Obviously, you can change things like your button layout. Personally, I play in bumper jumper, and I'm also an inverted player, but there are a lot of different settings you can change, like your dead zone, which is very important depending on your controller. You can change your acceleration of how quickly your movement and your aiming accelerates as you pan across the screen. You can also change the sensitivity of different scopes. If you find that you're scoping in with a sniper rifle, but it's moving too fast, you may want to turn down the zoom sensitivity for sniper rifles, and so on and so on. You can really fine tune this experience for yourself, even if you're on keyboard and mouse. Additionally, you want to look in the video settings. You can change the field of view here. By default, it's 78. I personally like 80, but people who have a long history of console first-person shooters may prefer something closer to 70, and longtime PC gamers may prefer something closer to 100. Additionally, we have a graphics quality setting. You can go between quality and performance mode based on your console, based on your setup, and there are things like motion blur, screen shake, full screen effects, speed lines. You can adjust all of these. Personally, I turned my motion blur and my screen shake off and my speed lines off, and I feel as though the game is way more clear and it's a lot easier for me to read information off the screen as it happens. You may have also noticed that in Halo Infinite, the enemy is always one color and you are always another color. It's no longer necessarily red versus blue. If you go to accessibility and go to visual, you can change what default color the enemy is. So if you'd like them to be purple, you can do that. And you can change your friendly AI color as well, or UI color. If you want your teammates to be pineapple color, you can do that as well. You can also change things like your reticle outline, your reticle thickness, and your hood opacity. These are really good things if you want less stuff cluttering your screen, if you want a more clear experience, or you just don't really want your heads-up display at all. Now, if there are any really cool things that you have found in the beta that I haven't mentioned, feel free to leave a comment and feel free to make predictions of the final game. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Special thanks to Zarias and Puffy Vins on Patreon. Peace.